entitled Practicing the Presence of God. It's sort of been my journey, I don't know about yours, but if we're going to be honest this morning, there are times in my spiritual life where I seem to be closer to the Lord than others. Now maybe that's just me. Maybe y'all walk at that intimate, close level 24/7, but I struggle. And so there are times when God seems like He's on the back 40 and I'm somewhere else. I don't know if you remember the old Don McLean song, American Pie. You remember that? Yeah, the three men I admire most, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, caught the last train before the coast. Any of you ever feel like that sometimes? Yeah? I mean, you don't want to admit it in church because you want to be pious. Right? Okay, sorry. But if we're honest, sometimes we feel like God is gone. We feel like we've strayed away. If we're honest, there are times that we're a lot closer to the Lord than others. And so we started this series, Practicing the Presence of God. To recap the first 2 weeks very quickly. One, we said it's relational, not religious. Many people want to know Jesus by grace, but then try to practice the presence of God by the law. That doesn't work. That's dysfunctional, that's schizophrenic, that's bipolar. Spiritually, however you want to look at it, it doesn't work. You know the Lord by grace, you're sanctified by grace, you will be glorified by grace. And it is about grace, and relational dynamics, relational dimensions work in building that intimacy and that closeness. Then last week we said it's about selflessness, not selfishness. You can't go through life and it all be about you. If you go through life thinking it's all about you, I'm wronged, I'm right, somebody did me wrong, I deserve this, I don't deserve that. If you walk through life with envy and covetousness, if you walk through life thinking everything's about you, you're not going to practice the presence of God we saw last week, because Jesus left heaven, took on human flesh, lived among us sacrificially and selflessly so we could win. Remember our tagline last week was, if you want to practice the presence of God, you have to want other people to win. And that's just, you have to have that at some point in your life. So today, it's real simple. Today we have to be involved in meaningful action, not busyness. We have to be involved in meaningful action, not busyness. Now let me ask you this. How many of you have heard this phrase about diet? Anybody ever diet in here? As y'all can tell, I don't know a diet, right? But I have known diets before. But how many of you know, have you ever heard the phrase, you are what you eat? You ever heard that phrase? You are what you eat? How many of you look like a donut? I look like the Michelin Man, so I must be eating tires, right? So that must be where I am today. But you sort of are what you eat, and though that's not really true. There are people who have great metabolisms. Don't you hate them? Don't you hate them? You can go out to dinner with them, and they can pile it on, man. I mean, they've never met a buffet that they didn't like, right? And you can't even tell it. But I walk by a buffet line, I gain 5 pounds. Anybody with me on that? Right. So that saying really isn't true. I mean, it really isn't true that you are what you eat, because there's some people who can get a pass on that. I can't, but some can. But this is true. You are what you do. You are what you become. What you do. What you do shapes who you are and what you become. Now there is no doubt about that. That as you do things in life, I don't mean this or 1 or 2 times here, 3 or 4 times here, but as you have rote, repetitious practices in your life, they shape who you are. We know some things about, joking aside, physically. Some of you here are very concerned with your physical appearance. It shows. You do things every day, every week that help that happen. Some of you are real concerned, about the appearance of your home. If you walk in your home any day, morning, noon, or night, it looks like you could eat off the floor and nobody's ever lived there, right? I mean, some of you, can I loan my 3 kids to you? Right? We can break you of that. Let me loan you my 3 kids, right? And those are some healthy practices that you have, some nice that you have, and we know about that. So what you do has sort of shaped who you are. And there was a guy a long time ago, that guy Paul Tillich. These guys, there were 2 or 3 other guys in his group that were existentialists. They were Christian existentialists. They believed this, and they said this, and this part was true, that if you want to become more Christian, do more Christian things. Doesn't that sort of make sense? If you want to be more like Jesus, do more things that Jesus would do. I mean, not real profound, but it makes a lot of sense. But here's what's happened. If you go back in the history of the church somewhere about 70 years ago got people very, very busy. Now, we're just talking here today, so we're going to raise hands and interact a little bit. How many of you would say, by your estimation, you were sort of raised in church? How many of you sort of raised in church? How many of you don't want to admit you were raised in church? How many of you are raised in church and still getting over it? right, depends on the church, right? I mean, there's some churches that's not good to be raised in, but some very healthy for you, right? So you're raised in church. And church was really good about getting you busy. For example, the denomination that I came through was real big into VBS. VBS was a big thing. Now, some of you probably know why VBS was Vacation Bible School. Do you know why Vacation Bible School was started? Vacation Bible School was started to help children come to know Jesus personally. Now, that's why it started. I've been in ministry 30 years. Much of that ministry was in some of these denominational churches. And may I tell you that I ran many VBSs where not one child got saved. And it took hundreds of dollars, hundreds of man hours. It took a lot of effort. And nobody had the courage to say, I don't think this is working. And they kept going and going and going. First Baptist Church, Concord, Tennessee, it's near Knoxville. They had one of the biggest VBSs, and I went to college and seminary in Tennessee. Some of you don't know that, so pretty familiar with the state of Tennessee. Over in East Tennessee, in Knoxville, huge church, they ran 3,000 or 4,000 people. They would have a VBS and have 2,000 kids, no joke. So one year they had 2,000 kids. Ready for this? Not one salvation. Not one. Now these are good teachers, well-trained, good literature, great stuff. Nobody came to know the Lord. So the pastor, Doug Sager, who'd been there 30 years at this point, maybe longer, Doug stood up and he had the cup to do this. He said, just want everybody to know, now this was the hallmark of the church. Think about it, if you have 2,000 kids, think how many adults you have working, folks who have worked at VBS, think of how many people you have working. And this has been long-standing at this church. Ready for this? Doug did one of the bravest things I've ever heard of. He killed it. He stood up and said it's over. He said, this is just busy work. It's not meaningful. We're having no results. We're not making any impact. This is just busy. See, in the church, we've gotten so confused. We think busy means meaningful, and yet we're satisfied with no results. We do the same thing all the time. Nothing happens, but bless God, we're going to do the same thing again next year. Why? Well, because we've always done it. So we're going to do it again. I think about discipleship programs. There's hundreds of discipleship programs I've seen, but they fail to give you a target. What are we shooting at? At the end of this 12 weeks, at the end of this 20 weeks, at the end of this year, what are you going to know and what are you going to be able to do? What's going to be different about your life? What are you going to be able to know that you don't know now, and what are you going to be involved with that you're not so far? It's pointless. It doesn't have a target. Think about evangelism programs. The denomination that I moved through were infamous with coming up with new evangelism programs about every 2 years. It was a good profit center for them, right? Because everybody would buy it. And so they would come up with a new evangelism program. I had a friend of mine who wrote one of them, and it was really good. But I watched churches go through hundreds of these things in their lifetime with very little results. Busy, but not meaningful. How about Tuesday night visitation? How many of you have been drugged out to Tuesday night visitation before? How many of you have been a victim of Tuesday night visitation? That means you had them knock on the door. That's the victim. Anybody been a victim of it? Right? And I'm not saying these are bad ideas. Please hear me. Some of you are looking at me like I'm the Antichrist right now. Right? I'm really not. No 666. Don't have it. Right? I'm not there. All right. So listen to me. All of these are good ideas. I'm not talking about nice ideas. I'm not talking about sitting in a boardroom with a whiteboard and coming up with a nice idea. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about meaningful work that makes a difference versus busyness because it makes you feel however. So Jesus, would you walk with me for just a few minutes? I promise you we're going to beat the Methodists and the Baptists to the restaurant. I promise you we're going to. Right? We're going to beat them all to the restaurant. But will you walk with me for a minute if I can show you a verse where Jesus said how he wants this stuff done? Would you be willing to read that verse with me? It's found over in Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28, verse 18. Many of you know this is the Great Commission, but there might be something here you've overread a few times. You just sort of breezed over. So Jesus is getting ready to leave the earth. He's already been crucified. He's already resurrected. He's walked on the earth for 40 days. He's getting ready to take off and leave. All right? And so he leaves us these words, and this is what he says. He says, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. So Jesus starts by saying, I'm the boss. That's what that means. What I'm about to tell you, I tell you with full authority. You don't have to default to a denominational leader. You don't have to default to your pastor. You don't have to default to anyone else. What I'm about to tell you is authoritative and true. This is a fact. This is Jesus with all authority. And so this is what he says. He says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things I command you. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Now, once you look at what he says, he said, go therefore to all the word. This is called an aorist participle. And here's what, I got to be nerdy for a minute. Okay, the Greek word the Greek language is a declined language. So let me just sort of talk to you about that for 1 minute, because it really matters here. It doesn't matter everywhere, but it matters here. You can take one word, Greek word, because of the way it's put together with prefixes and suffixes and its roots, it might take sometimes 3 or 4 English words to say what a Greek word says in one word. Does that make sense? It's called the declined language. So this verb right here that says, go therefore and make, is an aorist participle, which really means as you are going, or while you're in the process of living, while you're in the process of moving on. As you are going, make disciples. Now, everything I mentioned to you earlier are plans, and there's nothing wrong with a plan. If a plan is rooted in a value, based on some principles, there's nothing wrong with a plan. You have Tuesday night visitation, might be a good plan for you. You have a VBS, that might be a good plan for you. If it's rooted in values, based upon principles, right? But this is what Jesus said. Jesus said, as you're living your life, make disciples. We shouldn't have to gather here on Tuesday night and somebody beg you to invite somebody to church. Y'all are not happy. I don't mean to be offensive, I just mean to be honest. Right? We shouldn't have to have this phone's for you drive. Anybody remember that? I did that at one of my churches. Chris, you remember that? This phone's for you? It was a calling thing. They taught you how to take the phone book and divide it up, and you gave it out to people in the congregation, and you called everybody in the phone book in your area. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, a lot of hang-ups on that, right? And not a lot of people want to hear from you. But it's not there. Here's what Jesus says. As you are naturally living your life, as you are doing what I've called you to do, which is your work, your labor is a calling, it is a ministry. So as you're doing your labor, your work, as you're going, make disciples. Well, how do we do that? What is a disciple? Well, discipleship has 2 parts, very quickly. A disciple is 2 things. One, their relational connection with the Father through Jesus, which is the only way you get there. You got to know Jesus. So the first part of a disciple is you got to know Jesus. The second part is you have some intentional process in your life that you're working through to become more like Jesus. You're involved in worship, you're involved in home groups, you're involved in Sunday school, you're involved in whatever. And all these things are adding up to build your knowledge base and to shape your behaviors, right? And so you have some sort of process you're involved with to become a little bit more like Jesus. So Jesus says, here's what I want you to do. As you're living, I want you to be involved in helping people to come to know me and helping people come to grow, be like me. So how do we do it here at Grace? We do it real simple. This is our thing. All of our eggs are in this basket, just so you know. So some of you are praying and thinking about becoming a partner with us. That's our form of membership. You're thinking about partnering with us. All of our eggs are in this basket. We believe that if we remind you regularly that this is what Jesus said to do, that you'll do it. If not, then we don't need to exist. I mean, we just believe this. So we're not going to get you out on Tuesday night to go door knocking. We're not going to give you a bunch of phone numbers to call. We're not going to do that kind of business. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to expect you to do what Jesus said do. So it's as you are going, living your daily life, here's what we want you to do. Ready? Here's the phrase. We want you to invest and invite. Can you remember that? We want you to invest and invite. What do we mean by invest? We want you to invest in people. We want you to invest in people. Invest in the people you see on a regular basis. Now remember, if you want to practice the presence of God, if you want God to draw near, if you want it to be more than just a thought or an idea, or, oh, hey, I remember him, because you see the Bible laid over there on the table. If you want God to be more than that in your life, then you have to participate in what he says is important. And what he says is important is, as you are living your life, make disciples. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to invest in the Bible. We want you to invest in people. How are you going to do it? Here's how you do it. Here's some things. First of all, you're going to have to invest time. Being involved in the kingdom of God is a time issue. It just is. Now, I'm glad all of y'all are here today. It's great to see you. Thank you for coming. Hope you'll come back. But this isn't it. This doesn't end here. When you walk out the door, you have a lot of time left on your hands. And ultimately, all that time is ordered by God. He allows you to live each and every moment that you live. When he's done with you breathing air, you'll know it, we'll know it, and we'll remember you. But until then, you're responsible to him for your time. So it's going to take time to invest in people. So if you're serious about doing what Jesus said, you're going to have to know that you're going to have to rearrange your time. You're like, oh, Terry, I wish you'd have just said give $10 extra. I could have done that. But you're saying I have to reassess my time? Yeah, but now follow me. You have to readjust your time meaningfully. Here's how simple it can be. Does everybody have 5 minutes in a week? Everybody have 5 minutes in a week? Do you know somebody right now in your life that's hurting that would love a phone call and love you to speak positive words into their life? Do you know somebody like that? You just meaningfully spent 5 minutes of time. You call somebody up, hey Joe, I haven't seen you in a while. You know, I'm so sorry about, you know, your wife and her sickness or whatever it might be. Man, I am so very sorry. I just want you, I was at church Sunday and I thought about you and I prayed for you. Is there anything specifically I can pray for you about? Man, I just want to be your friend. You're saying that's part of the process? That's a big part of the process. It takes just a little bit of time. Second thing it takes, as you can tell, it just takes love. You just gotta love people. Now I know some of you are saying, I love my dog and I like people, so I have a problem. Right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. You gotta love people. You gotta love people. Scripture's pretty clear on this. You say you love the Father, but you don't love who you can't see. But you say you love your brother that you do see, you got a problem. You gotta love people. If you love people, you'll take some time. You'll invest in their life. So invest some time, invest love, invest resources. Some of you have extra resources. You have an extra car. You know somebody whose car's gone kaput, and you know that. Pick up the phone and call them. Well, I might offend them. I promise you, if they need a car to get to work, you will not be offending them. They will receive it as a blessing. But I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. It's going to be far more uncomfortable if they get fired. Trust me. So you're sitting down at dinner, you come home and you realize you made dinner for 5 and all your kids are gone because they did stuff that they didn't plan with you and they went ahead and did it anyway. That ever happened at your house? All right, so you've got too much food to cook and you're thinking, you know what? I just remembered Joe and Sally. Joe lost his job 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying Joe's cupboards are empty. I'm not saying Joe's not going to eat. But you know what? I'm going to call him and just say, hey, Joe, you're not going to guess. You know, my kids didn't tell us what was going on. They left, and we cooked a lot of food. And, man, we sure would love to have you guys over. We just love to see you. I don't want to make you feel bad because some of you right now are saying, now you're invading my home. It's not yours. It's God's. And he's letting you have it.
Right.
And the minute you hold on too tightly, I promise you, he can pry your fingers off.
That's a fact.
I like that.
That's a fact.
He can. He loves you that much. So here's what you do. You say, well, I'm just going to call. It just takes a little time. Maybe there's no tragedy. Maybe there's no problems. Maybe you know some people that aren't in church. I bet you do. I bet you know some people not in church. So you know some people, you sort of like them. You don't mind hanging out with them a little bit. They're not too Grady, right? They work in a different department, so you're okay with them. And so you just say, hey, I think I'm going to just invest some time into it. Well, what do we invite them to do, Terry? Here, first of all, the easiest thing to do is invite them to your home. The easiest thing for you is invite people to your home. Are you serious about wanting to practice God's presence daily? Are you serious about God being more than a word, a phrase, or a name? Do you really want to experience God on a regular basis? If you do, then you have to be about doing what Jesus was about doing. Jesus is about reaching people. You've got to be about that at some level. Now, maybe not where I am or where maybe others are, but you've got to be at some level. So we're going to invest in people's lives, and we're going to invite them to your home. I love what Bill Hybel said. Bill Hybel's in one of his associates, Middlebury, I can't remember his first name, wrote a book called Barbecue First. Before you start hammering somebody with a Bible, barbecue first. Invite them over, cook them a hamburger, make us some chicken. Invite them over, fried chicken. I'm not going to say if there's somebody here that knows me fried chicken. I just saw them. All right? So anyway, so just invite them over. Invite them over. Invite them over. Cook something for them. Invest a little time. Invite them into your home. Listen, we're starting small groups. Jennifer, in 3 weeks? 4 weeks, is it? I don't remember.
September 20th.
20th, so that's 3 weeks. I guess before. Well, September 20th, ever how many weeks it is. We're starting home groups. We're going to have groups all around the area, home groups, where you can come and study a little bit, but mainly build fellowship. Home groups are the safest place in the world to invest in people's lives and invite people to if they won't come to church. There's some people that's scared of this building. It's not too scary to me, but for some people, it's scary for them, and they don't want to come in here. So your home is a safe place, and they'll come to that. So you say, wow, I didn't know you guys were doing that. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot more about it coming up. You can start seeing stuff in the program about it. I want you to be involved. Invite them to your home. Second easiest thing to do is invite them to church. After you've invested in their life a while, after they know you're not just looking for another notch on your gun belt or swastika on your airplane or whatever. I mean, that you're, after they know that you are truly out there, for them. Here's what you got to do: invite them to church. How many of you have been coming to Grace since the beginning? Right? Okay. How many of you have been coming to Grace over, let's say, 3 months? Over 3 months. 3 months. Okay. We're a safe place, aren't we? Aren't we a safe? If you invited someone who's got a lot of hang-ups about church, and maybe they've got a lot of hang-ups about preachers, we foster that. It's justified oftentimes, right? And you got a lot of hang-ups about this, but I think we're building a place here that is safe for people who are questioning. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm right on that. We're building a safe place for that. So after you've invested in their life a little bit, why not invite them to church? We're not going to embarrass them. You know that, right? We're not going to point them out. We're not going to make them feel uncomfortable. We're not going to yell and scream at them. We're not going to shake them down with an offering every week and make it, give before you get out. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to love them, and we're going to speak the truth to them lovingly. And that's a safe place. Invite a church. Now the third thing, are you ready? Here's the last thing. After you've invested in their life, after you've spent time, spent some resources, you've shown them love, you start inviting them to your home, to church, but ultimately you want to invite them to the Lord. Ultimately you want to invite them to the Lord. Now some of you might not ever get to that point. Personality thing, confidence, might be a lot of stuff. I get that. There's no condemnation on that, okay? But there's enough of us running around here that are really comfortable with that. We will help you. Well, how does that look? You've invested in somebody for a year or two. You've invited them to your home. They've come to church a few times. They're starting to ask spiritual questions. And you are not sure if you can navigate that. You know what you do? You call me. If I can't come, I'm going to call Ryan. Or I'm going to call Alan. Or I'm going to call Chris. Or I'm going to call somebody else. And we're going to send them over to you. And they're going to help you in that journey. There are those of us around here who will walk with you at that point. You don't have to do that. We will walk with you at that point. So, you want to practice the presence of God? You have to be about what Jesus was about. And Jesus said that as you are going to make disciples. And here at Grace, our process is really simple. It starts, now this is the starting point. It starts by investing and inviting. That's where it starts. All of us can do that at some level. You know, I had a thought the other day. Some folks were asking me about how far I thought Grace could go, you know, as a church. I've been in the community, well, a dozen years now or so. So I've been around a little bit, over a decade. I said, you know, I don't know for sure, but here's what I know it depends on. It depends on the people's desire to invest in people's lives and invite them. That's what it depends on. No pastor can grow a church. We're not that important. We have great worship. It was awesome. Meg did a great job today.
Amen.
Everybody who
Amen.
stands up here does a great job. We have great worship. That can't grow a church. We got a pretty cool building. That can't grow a great church. You know, pretty good location. That can't grow a great church. People being used by the Lord grow great churches. So how far can we go as Grace? As far as you let it go. You get to put the lid on it. Every day you don't invest and invite, you put a lid on it. Every day you don't invest in people's lives, kindness, love, time, resources. Every day you don't invest in people's lives. Every day you don't invite someone to your home or to church or even ultimately to consider Christ, you put a lid on how far we can go. The ball's in your court. And here's what I know. You're going to do a great job. I believe that. All of our philosophy hinges on this. We have no plan B. I can't find a plan B. I've looked. There's not a plan B. All right? If there was, I would have a plan B drawn out. There's only a plan A. Is doing it like Jesus said do it. As you are going, make disciples. The first step is to invest in people's lives and invite them to come. Listen to me. I love you. It doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done last night, what you're going to do tonight. I don't care. I love you. But more importantly, God loves you. And He wants to do amazing things with you and through you. Practice His presence over the coming years. Amen? Amen. Amen. Pray with me.